Good morning, everybody, or I should say afternoon. Welcome to Coffee, Weed, and Guns. I'm Jake Two Stone. How y'all doing this morning? On this crazy 2020, getting ready for 4th of July, everybody. To all the dads out there that I didn't go live on Sunday. I hope you all had a good, happy Father's Day. Father's Day is not really a good day for me, so that's why I really didn't do a live show. I have my own reasons. I'm not really going to go into those details over here, but I got some yummy wax. Which one is this one? Galaxy Batter. Smells pretty good. Very terpy. Yesterday made me sneeze and cough at the same time. And as always, of course, I have the 300 with the Hollow Point FMJs, 120 grain. A lot of people ask why people do that. This is a stack the rounds back in the magazine correctly if they get shifted. Hope you all are having a good day. This is my 300 Blackout SBR or CQB, whatever you like to prefer to call it. 7.62 by 3.5. It's a M-Lock upper receiver by Grid Tactical, and Spike Tactical lower receiver, both from Florida, which is interesting. Mil-spec bolt and carry and charging handle and trigger grouping, and bushing, buffer and spring.
God damn it!
Sorry everybody, it's my kid playing Apex on the Xbox. Been doing a lot of seasoning with my bolt and carry group. A lot of people don't know what that is. One thing I've learned in the Army is that if you season your bolt and carry group right, it will never malfunction. You'll have a clean system, especially if you know how to clean your system after going to the range and things like that. The biggest complaint that I've been hearing from a lot of guys is that the trigger grouping has a tendency to get caked up. And I've heard that before. And the best thing you can do is some air duster. Air dust it out real good if you are comfortable taking apart the trigger grouping. But that's what we're going to talk about today, is taking apart the trigger grouping. I'm not going to actually go into full demonstration, but I will explain to you exactly how to do it and do it the proper way without causing too much issue. Okay, so the downside of taking off the trigger grouping is obviously taking the complete assembly apart, separating the top from the bottom, and then unfortunately you're going to have to basically strip it down to its skeleton. You're going to have to take off the buffer tube, the spring, the whole 9 yards, the pistol grip, all those little springs. Now keep in mind there's a little spring and detent in here, okay, that goes to this drop down pin, okay, that you're going to need to take out. Actually, you may not need to take that out. Actually, you can keep that in place. But you are going to need to take off the pistol grip, and there is a spring and detent in the pistol grip as well that goes to the selector switch. So you need to make sure when you're taking this off that you be very careful. And then everything else is pretty self-explanatory from there. You don't need to worry about these takedown pins. They can stay in. But the pins on the middle here, I'm not sure if you can see them, but they go right through the hammer and trigger group. Now, mind you, you want to make sure you have a good firm thumb down on both of those devices as you're taking out the pin. So you want to take out the hammer first, and that's the top pin that's a little higher, closer to the receiver. Okay, you take that one out first. Make sure you have a good hold on the hammer. Use a small punch or something that fits in there well, and then punch that out, and then you'll feel the hammer start being tense in your finger wanting to come out. And that should slide easily right out of the receiver after you've taken off the pistol grip and removed all the the detent and the spring from there. Okay, everything else is downhill. Taking out the hammer and then follow up with the same thing, putting your thumb down on the spring of the trigger group, and then you do the same thing, knock out the pin, take the trigger group out. Now you can wipe everything down, including the springs that are attached to the trigger grouping, and just reverse the steps, putting it back in. Put the trigger assembly in first, okay? Then you put your selector switch in, because of the way some trigger groups work, you can't have the selector switch in first and then put the trigger in, because the way the sear lines up. And then from there, you'll drop your hammer in with your springs facing obviously the correct way. Make sure you take correct note and watch. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there on how to place your grouping back in properly, okay? This really isn't anything hard to do. It's just tedious, and it can be time consuming, okay? So this really isn't that difficult. You'd be very surprised how simple it is to do. Anyone really can do it if you have the common sense for it, or the intelligence for it. Some people just don't have that type of intelligence, and it's just better off leaving that type of stuff to the professionals. Best thing you can do is some pipe cleaners and some air duster, and you'll be okay. Okay, do not put any water down there. Do not rust out those springs, please. That's a no-go. Do not put water down in your trigger grouping, because that will rust out your springs, and you'll be shooting one day and all of a sudden the springs will break because they'll start rusting. They are not rust resistant, okay? They make a spray though now that actually does treat and your steel, including your trigger grouping, for rust. So it extends the life of your spring. But it is still recommended after 1,000 rounds to your rifle. Some rifles are different. If you buy it used, and you might need to, within 500 rounds, replace the trigger grouping springs, which are not very expensive, and they're not very, like I said, not very hard to put in. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there telling people exactly how to place these springs and pins in. I mean, it really isn't hard. Okay. My girlfriend put this together. I had a hard time not taking over, so I basically had to put my hands behind my back, because this is her first full build, and I ain't gonna lie, this was the detents that go to the takedown pins, but mostly the front one. It's the hardest one. The front takedown pin right here. See this little tube that runs along here? There's a little hole with a spring in there. There's a little pin that you have to push down with the spring and place the detent inside this channel of the front takedown pin. And I'll be honest with you, the way they tell you to do it is a little nerve-wracking. And I didn't see at the time when I did this that there's a little hole right here on the side of my receiver that actually is meant to help you with that, where you just take like a safety pin or something like that while taking either a flat nose or something small enough to fit down in that channel to push a spring down. Take a safety pin and hold it in place. Drop your detent in. Put your drop down pin in, your takedown pin in, and then let go of, pull the safety pin out, and the detent will fall right into the channel. Hey, that was so dumb. I did it the hard way. Trying to hold my thumb down and hold the spring in, and then get that in place, and then had to use a Allen key through there to hold it in place, and then I had to just pull the Allen key out and put the takedown pin in real quick, so that way the damn thing didn't fly away. I almost lost it twice. The second time I almost went down the sink. I was so freaking mad. Anywho. Boo. What's up, my love? What you need? Yeah, see, I don't like that much play in my trigger when it's unsafe. Functions test too. So hold your finger down on the trigger. Okay, muzzle in a safe direction. Charge the action, and then release the trigger. You should hear a click, nice loud ding. That lets you know that the sear is properly engaging. the hammer, okay? That is the firing mechanism, alright? The firing pin is just what strikes the round and causes the round to go off. But this down here is what makes it go boom. Without this, you wouldn't be able to do anything. And all AR-15 platforms are gas-operated systems. Which means it uses its recycled gas from the explosion of the round going off to rechamber and exit, well, to eject brass and rechamber new brass. So, alright. Alright, now that my child is in her room. Let's do these dib. I'm gonna make it a short one today, y'all.
Damn.
We'll be on 20 minutes. I hope you're all staying safe out there with everything going on. I strongly recommend getting out there and buying yourself a weapon. Rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. It's my rule of thumb. So recently I came across some stuff that kind of had me all upset. So I live in Colorado Springs, and somebody was put a post up hating on one of my friends who was standing in a static sniper position over watching the crowd because there's some threats Antifa put up about sending a whole busload of people down to start, cause some violence with the protesters, the peaceful protesters, to get things riled up. Well, long story short, they ended up calling my friend who was standing up there 3% extremist. I don't know what the fuck that is. And that he was a racist. I'm starting to realize there's a shitload of propaganda going on. Reverse racism. How does hate with hate gonna give anybody equality? You know how hypocritic Hippocratic that is? The hypocrisy in this nation is retarded. Can't be out there saying you're a peaceful protester and at the same time picking up bricks and throwing them. That's not peaceful. Okay? Now, if you're holding a sign screaming for justice, that's fine. Here's the other thing, too. Why defund the police? No, we need to take away the incentive programs that give police the motivations that they have. Not defund them, but take away the incentive programs that make them do their job the way that they do it. 2.
Wow, already?
Make, yes, a police advisory board, but also we need to revamp law enforcement as a whole. Okay? It does not need to be where it is. Okay? We as a community are responsible for policing ourselves. Right? Okay? And as a community, it is our responsibility to know our neighbors, okay, and be responsible enough as a community, as a whole, select someone as you see fit as your representation and qualifying person for law enforcement to represent your community. Here's my thing. I know it's supposed to be, non-biased and things like that, but you need an uncorruptible, unmovable person, someone that has a lot of integrity, okay? my point is, and a lot of this is police have a tendency to escalate. I've dealt with it personally in my own personal life, having to deal with the Colorado Springs Police Department, and I'm calling them out. You all escalate way more than you need to. My two sons got stopped one time by the police because they met a description of two suspects that committed a robbery. When I walked up on the scene and I asked the two officers to step the fuck away from my kids because I was on the scene, the two officers then turned on me, one pulling a weapon and one pulling his taser, and at which point I identified myself as a cardiac patient, which he still threatened to use at that point what is considered lethal force on somebody who has identified themselves as a cardiac patient. Okay? And then chose to detain me unlawfully, saying that I obstructed his job. Told me he's detaining me for obstruction of justice. And I laughed at him. And I requested for his NCO or his sergeant to come on scene. And while he still tried to maintain questioning my kids, the questioning didn't continue until the NCO came on the scene, and then at which point he realized that he fucked up, and that he was just causing us grief and detaining us and wasting our time. Clearly, my kids did not meet the description of the people that committed the robbery. It was two black kids, not a white kid and a Hispanic kid. These kids are crazy these days. Not that my kids aren't capable of committing crimes, but they don't have no guns. And they're not like that. They're both pussies. They ain't gonna fucking rob somebody like that. They're both too innocent of that. You know what I mean? So I went up there to, back the police off and let them know that these kids are just coming home. Yes, they're in a public domain street, but obviously they don't meet any, description. You can go on about your night and go find the real suspects instead of wasting my time and your time here fucking around with my kids questioning us. And that's exactly what I ended up saying to him before he even left. I was like, what you just did was constitutionally illegal, and y'all get away with it all the time. And this is what the crowd and the protesters, I feel your pain there, okay? I do, okay? But here's my thing, all right? It's based off of where you live, your social status, and what you look like, okay? People look at me because I don't have no teeth and think that I'm a fucking meth head, but I'm not. I've never done meth in my life. But did I get out of the military and not take care of myself? Because at that point I already had some cracked off teeth and I became an alcoholic and was homeless for a period of time. And yes, that happened to me. But it doesn't mean I ever used methamphetamines and lost my teeth because of that. I've had doctors ask me when's the last time I used methamphetamines. With a cardiologist, I'm like, I've never done it, ever. Then why is your mouth like that? It says I'm a veteran. Do you think that possibly some of that could have been from being blown up and having bad teeth before I got out of the Army, which the Army neglected to take care of? And then my alcoholism and me not taking care of myself for a few years really didn't help the situation. And by the time that came around and me started waking up and taking care of myself again, it was just a little too late for my teeth. And I needed to do something about it because it was painful. So the option was my teeth were so bad that VA decided to take all my teeth and not give me any dentures. So, hey, at least I'm not in pain anymore, but I can still talk. I don't look too weird with no teeth. At least my face ain't all sunken in and shit. But, oh, I don't know, man. It's a strange world. It's a strange world, but like I said, it's not the color of your skin, okay? It's what you look like, their perception of you, and their experience, okay? Everything is based off of perception, okay? When all of us have our own experiences, our own knowledge, our own intellect, and we all perceive things completely different from one person to the other, okay? And a lot of us like to pretend if I was in that situation, but the thing of it is you weren't in that situation. So you don't know what you would do. You may act tough, you may say tough shit, But the reality of it is, if you have never actually been in a situation where you've actually had to take someone's life and defend yourself, or be in that type of a situation like a law enforcement officer, then you don't have anything to relate that to. You have no experience. Okay? Shit's tense, and people sometimes are nasty and evil. There are evil people in the world, on both sides of the fence, not just on the civilian populace, but on law enforcement side too. But here's what needs to happen: accountability. Okay, there needs to be harsher actions, yes, and also harsher punishments for law enforcement officers that violate constitutional rights. It needs to be a community advisory committee, but it needs to revamp law enforcement as a whole, community by community by community. Okay, because nobody likes talking to a stranger. I'd rather deal with someone I know rather than someone I don't know. You're less likely to shoot and kill someone you know and have a relationship with than you are to shoot and kill someone you don't. Because you can dehumanize people, and that's a problem with law enforcement, is they're dehumanizing certain sects of the populace. And some of it, yes, is geared towards the African American populace, especially in some of the southern states. I'm not saying racism don't exist in the United States, but it's social racism. It's not conventional racism like we think today. It's social racism. It's status. So it's based off of status racism. So if you live in a ghetto-ass community, whether you're white, black, brown, Hispanic, I don't care. They're gonna harass you. They're gonna treat you different. They're not gonna give you the same amount of respect as if it was an African American living in an upper, middle class community or home, single family home. They're gonna get a little bit more respect, and they're not gonna be escalated with as much. But certain areas, certain cities, just police are already on edge and perceiving you as a possible threat, and that you could be up to no good. And that's part of the terrible, terrible training that they put out. Is their profiling techniques are terrible. They need a class from like one of the intelligence agencies and stuff. This is why the criminal justice degree is nice and all, but it's not focused in all the right areas all the time. So.
I've landed here.
Well, everybody, it's been almost 23 minutes. So I want to go ahead and wrap this up. I hope you all had a great. Oh, you all had. Yeah. I hope you all have a great day. If y'all need anything, have any questions, please feel free to message me. Please hit the subscribe button. I'd really, truly appreciate it. I'm not really getting many views, and I really would love to. But like I said, I'm just kind of getting into this stuff. So, all right, everybody, have a good one.